Hello, welcome to the first review from Bored at Home.
Bored at Home.
I'm Alejandro.
I'm uncomfortable.
He is uncomfortable.
I'm uncomfortable.
And he's Charlie.
I'm Charlie.
Yes. For our first review, we figured we'd kind of hit a game that's... It is a campaign game. We can't replay it. We've played through the entire base game. Yeah. Destinies, obviously.
Destinies.
Yeah. You saw it in the name.
And hopefully the thumbnail. I don't know how we're going to do that.
Yeah, I don't know. I got to figure out how to do that stuff. But we'll get there. I don't know. We're just going to kind of talk about the game, what we love, what we don't. So
I love everything about the game itself. There's some minor drawbacks from like the setup of some. We'll get into it. It's like I just have one or two problems.
Right. So let's just kind of go through really quick. This is a game that on the box it says it's 120 to 150 minutes is what it estimates.
Something like that, or 180, I think.
Yeah. That's actually pretty spot on.
Yeah. All our games pretty much went from around 2 hours to maybe 2.5 hours, with some going over 3, depending on like what was actually going on in the game.
Yeah, and if you're constantly diligently playing the game, don't get too distracted, whatever. Like, we got distracted a few times. Right. But if you don't, you're going to be hitting that 2 hour mark.
Probably 2 hour mark. Even when somebody, like, pulls ahead very early in the game, it's still going to take a while for them to complete all of their objectives.
Yeah, so I think you know how long you're going to be playing the game, and I really did like that.
Yeah.
Like, we were able to plan the day to play the rest of the game. Yeah. So that was really cool.
The last 3 scenarios, we actually were like, we're gonna finish that in one day, and we'll finish around this time. And about that time, we actually finished a little early.
We did.
But it's very almost too correct for a board game, because generally they're either way too long or way too short from what the box says.
That's a good point. That is I guess it is a good and a bad thing to know how long you're going to be playing a game.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like, hey, let's just play a game, have fun. But I don't think, even so, this is a game you can just say, hey, do you guys want to play Destinies?
No.
Because it is so the first scenario is it'll teach you basically all the mechanics of the game. It is its own self-contained story within itself. The next other four that come in the base game are an overarching campaign through the course of 4 scenarios. Mm-hmm. I actually really enjoyed that. I will say, though, of course, no spoilers. This is a game that can be spoiled very easily. It didn't make sense until the end.
Like, all of the scenarios together didn't make sense.
Yeah, they didn't fully connect until the end.
I will say, I think the first scenario is one of my favorites.
Oh, yes. It definitely...
Super fun.
Yeah, it was something that... It was an open and shut book. It felt like a novel. Like, it wasn't...
Yeah.
It didn't take so long. Even though I'm not really complaining about how long it took to play the game. We played it... Total finishing the box was around 13 hours. Yeah. Is what we kind of estimated. I didn't really mind that. But yes, I do agree. I liked the first one the best. Maybe it was the first time we were playing it, but I felt... The decisions made in that were a little more intense.
I think the story is what made me like it. But you're right. It's the first time in the game. There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
But I think the story and like what actually goes on in that first scenario really helped sell the game. Period. Like if you can just try out the first scenario, then you're probably gonna fall in love with the game. For sure.
Yes, and of course, the big elephant in the room. This is a game that requires an app.
Yeah.
Lucky Duck, this is their second one that needs an app. The first one being Chronicles of Crime. Technically, they did, like Chronicles Through Time thing.
Right.
It's all, in my opinion, it's all still part of the same game. But it does need an app. I own 3 games with an app. 4 games with an app.
I have 0 games with an app.
I think I don't mind it so much because I love video games. I love board games. Right. Kind of putting them together.
That actually leads me to like one of the major, not major in like this is like a big thing, but like I think one of the biggest dislikes for me was that you could sometimes spend 10 to 15 minutes not doing anything, just waiting on the app.
Yeah.
Which is like, it's kind of just downtime. Like when our third player was playing, we would generally like make jokes or play with my dogs. But it's kind of the thing, like, same thing in like a lot of games. There's always going to be some kind of downtime unless the turns are like going simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like a pretty big chunk of downtime.
And because some of the things that he would do wouldn't, well, even in my opinion, at the time, I wouldn't know they were directly affecting me.
Right.
Like, I didn't have to strategize around you.
No.
As opposed to other games. But it is a game which I've heard the critique before of, I think how it was put was basically, the game is great, and I wish I had more turns.
Yeah.
Because when when it's your turn and you're holding the device, it is fantastic. You're into it.
It's the best.
What decision am I going to make? There's so many things to do in a turn. So many things you could do in a turn.
You have a lot of options.
A lot of options. And you really don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
But when you're not playing it, there is that downtime of, we're texting people. Well, I wasn't. We were using my phone, but
right.
He's texting, we're talking, just letting the other player do their thing. And if you're holding the device, you don't want to put it down.
Do you really when it's finally like you run out of things to do, or it's unfortunately sometimes you'll do something, or maybe you'll fail, and it's just end of turn right there, even though you could have done more stuff. And those are the ones that stung the most. When your turn gets ended early, you're just like,
because when you speak to someone, you can do basically everything that it says you could do, but I noted it was a much later game. If you failed one of those, it could end your turn.
Could end your turn right then and there. And it's like, dang, I was going to do all these other things. Yes. Now I can't.
And if you do them in a wrong order, I would always be like, I'm going to do that last. But the thing I thought would be simpler is what failed me the turn.
Ended up right.
Yeah, and failed me the turn is the wrong word, but...
So we want to talk about the value of the game?
Value for the game.
Like, and value could be like, I think what we're basing it on is like, time played versus cost.
Mm-hmm.
So we got 13 hours out of the game, like you said.
Yep.
That's 3 people.
Paid $50 for the game. That's the base MSRP for the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good value. It hurts it a little bit because it's not really replayable.
Yeah.
Like Terraforming Mars, you can get $40, $50, play it forever.
Yes.
Right? But this, you really don't want to, like, maybe the 3 people we played with could play it over, but then again, we still know pretty much everything that the other person was going for and where things are and stuff like that. So you don't really have a lot of replayability. Even if you're playing with new people, you still have kind of
you'd have an upper hand. Yeah. And it's an unfair upper hand.
It would. You could consider it an advantage.
Yeah. Which... Yes, that's not great. But this one was going to stay in my collection because Lucky Duck, with Chronicles of Crime, they had basically community-made scenarios.
Right, you were telling me about that.
Right, and Lucky Duck plans to do that again with Destinies.
That'd be awesome.
Which is just more content of people, because I did play with their editor for Chronicles of Crime, and it was very well made, very simple to do, so I'm really hoping that other people... I'm honestly not going to take the time to do it because it's like a lot of work. Got to develop a story, characters, yada, yada.
and then you're limited to what is in the
What's
game.
in the box.
In the box, exactly. Which makes it a little more difficult to create new stories that people will be like drawn into.
Which is exactly why Lucky Duck keeps the cards fairly ambiguous as far as they give you as minimal things as possible, but that big QR code.
Right.
That's kind of what everything revolves around, is those QR codes.
QR codes, yeah.
Yeah, which, getting onto the components part, as far as like value of... This game feels deluxified base.
Yes. Everything is... I mean, the card quality is very good.
Yes.
The coins, like, thick cardboard.
I genuinely, when I was punching it, I thought I had 2 in my hands. And I was like, oop, I'm accidentally punching 2 at the same time.
All the tokens and everything, very quality, very high quality. Player boards, good.
Dual layered player boards.
Yeah.
which is fantastic for those little wooden pegs that
the player, because I could see if it was not dual layered, you're just knocking stuff everywhere.
That would be a nightmare.
Because even with the dual layered player boards, sometimes cubes would get knocked out of place.
Yes.
Occasionally. Without that, you're talking cubes everywhere, everybody, and that also kind of makes it easier to cheat, because you're like, oh, I bumped my cube, I'm just going to move
oops, yeah, it should be up here.
Move my thing up, right. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, for $50, they give you
it is
good value.
Yeah, and you can buy metal coins, but I really didn't feel like I needed them.
I like metal coins. I probably would have gotten the metal coins.
Right.
But I also have a hard time not buying into all the extras and stuff, like deluxified components for the games that I buy.
But even with deluxifying, I'm incredibly happy with it. Like the dice alone, there's how many? 9? I can't do that math. There's a good handful of dice. There's at least 9 what they call effort dice, which is a fantastic
3 per player. Yeah, there's 9 effort die.
9 effort die.
2. I mean, they're D6, but they're not D6.
Right.
For each player. Mm-hmm. Big old dice too.
It is. It's great. Throwing those dice felt good. They have a nice heft. It was all in all, I really enjoyed the quality of it. Yes. So going into the value thing, you're paying for a premium product.
Right.
It genuinely feels premium. And for that $50 price point, for 13 hours of play, for 3 people.
Better than the movies.
What was it? $10 per scenario if you were just doing it solo. So all that entertainment for multiple people is great. And better than the movies.
Better than the movies. That's not a good value to compare.
No, I guess not. Well, but a movie ticket's $10 for about an hour and a half, 2 hours.
2 hours, right? Unless you're going to see, I'm not going to mention anything.
Right.
Right.
But I know exactly what you're talking about.
One of those big Kate movies, superhero movies.
Okay. Well, I mean, now it's obvious what you're talking about.
Well, I didn't say it.
He didn't say it.
I didn't say it.
No. So what else?
Teach time.
Teach time, yeah.
Very easy to teach because it's mostly based on the app.
Mm-hmm.
What you're teaching is mostly on the player board and what the dice mean and how all that works.
Yeah. It was the same with Chronicles. Chronicles literally has on the box, no need to read the rules. And this one is a little bit more complex than that. Mm-hmm. You do have the interesting level up mechanics.
XP
tokens, all that.
Which we did not know how to use at first.
And then a good thing, he mentioned it, and I looked it up.
Because we had like a stack of XP tokens. He's just like, I think eventually you level up with them.
But I didn't know. So then I went back to the rulebook, and it clearly states what they do. The rulebook is written very well as well.
So maybe do read the rules.
At least have one player read the rules.
Probably the person who owns the game.
Yeah, which is exactly what happened. And yeah, I think it was very simple to teach. You guys we were ready to go in very short amount of time.
Because it's app based, so it's not like you're having to figure out everything like based on just physical
paper.
Pieces,
yeah,
right?
it's place this number tile here.
Exactly.
Do this and this. It gives you a list of what to do.
There is some things like movement, how far you can move, and stuff like that you do need to know because the app doesn't keep track of it.
Yeah.
But you will. Most of the rules are taken care of right throughout the app.
Mm-hmm.
Complexity of the game.
Complexity.
Like that'd be like if you're looking on Board Game Geek, that'd be like the weight of the game.
Yeah.
It's very light. I'd say like easy, somewhere between like a party game and a like an easy Euro.
Easy Euro game.
Euro game. Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you have 2 actions.
Yeah.
Move, interact.
Yeah.
Interact with another little player on the board, not a human player, because you actually never interact with human players. It's with an NPC or with a location. You do what's in that location or just whatever, talking to that NPC, your turn's over. Very simple.
You do the worst part of the game and you pass the app.
Yep.
Which is unfortunate.
Yeah. So teaching is easy.
and it's a very light game.
And it's very light.
But fun. It's light, but the story's good.
Yes.
The gameplay is fun. Rolling the dice. If you like rolling dice, you'll enjoy the game.
You're going to roll a lot of dice. I would say like the simplicity can create complexity.
Yes.
Because it's, ooh, what do I want to do? Should I speak to this person?
Should I do this? Sometimes you'll think you should do this, and then you'll do it, and it'll be the wrong decision. Mm-hmm. It could be something that you don't need to be doing at all, but there's only one way to find out. And that's by doing it.
And actually, that was something I really did enjoy about playing that is everything in the game is out in the open. You're supposed to read everything out in the open, except your destiny, which is what character you're playing. It's your character's motivation, and you have two options. You have your good destiny and your bad destiny to go for. So, I don't fully know what he's going after, but if he's going and looking at places, and we asked it a lot, has somebody gone here?
Yeah.
You know, and they say, yeah, I did. I'm like, oh, that's right. So I kind of know what's going to happen there.
But you'll know what's going to happen there, and you'll also know like because you'll have things you need to do for your destiny. And if you see something that you need, then and another player moves past it, you can say, well, okay, maybe they don't need that for their destiny. And so the game gives you hints. It doesn't outright tell you what other people's destinies are, but how other players are playing and what they're going after kind of gives you a hint to what they are after.
Yeah. For example, the third player we were playing with, he dropped an item, the exact item I needed.
The exact item he needed. And I knew he needed the item because of how he was playing. Mm-hmm. But I had already gotten everything I needed to fulfill my destiny. So I left it there, even though I could have went and picked it up before him to kind of, keep him from fulfilling his destiny.
Right.
Because pretty much all the games we played, him and I were neck and neck.
Every single game.
Except for the last one. We got steamrolled, both of us.
Yeah, by our other player.
Yeah. I won 4 out of 5, though, so, I feel like I did pretty good.
4 out of 5, and I won 0.
He won 0, which happens often. I'm just a better player than he is, I think.
Good thing I am a good loser.
Yeah, he's a good loser, and I'm a great winner.
But I love the game. I love playing.
It is a very good game.
I guess I'm a glutton for punishment.
Yeah, but it's got a lot of clues and indications to what people are going after, and it's great. And I feel like I'm repeating myself, so we're gonna move on.
Okay. Well, to that, it does pay to pay attention.
Yes,
to what's happening.
It does.
Yeah.
So setup.
Setup was very simple.
Very simple, especially compared to like heavier games like Scythe, Root, Terraforming Mars. Like the setup does not really get than this unless you're playing a party game.
Long as you keep all the cards in order.
Yeah, it's got a very good insert with it.
Oh man,
that it comes with, and it just keeps everything nice and organized, easy to play. Essentially,
what we did is stack of the tiles, stack of the items.
Yep. And one person got the tiles, one person got the items, and that's just playing throughout the game. Setting it up, somebody would read what we need, and the other person would just sift through the tiles and place them down and get the minis.
Yeah, and that was it.
The hardest part of setup is picking out which miniatures you need, which is my second and last dislike of the game, is that picking out the minis, especially from the box, is you're like going row by row, because it's just they're tiny. I don't even know if you can see that gap between my fingers.
They're 15 millimeter minis, which are very small, and they're all the same gray plastic. Very small details. I guess I would have to say that is one of my critiques. They're very small, and when they're all on the table clumped together, it does happen where you're moving yourself, but you're actually moving an NPC or the other players.
Right. Because generally the minis look different enough that like, this is me, that's you. But there was one occasion I can think of where we all looked very similar. Mm-hmm. About the only difference was like the weapons that were actually being carried by the minis, which is very hard to tell from 2-3 feet away. Not at your eye level,
The bosses, though, are very, very distinct.
Very, very distinct.
So you can't mess those up. No. But especially like he's saying, going to the setup to looking into this black insert, just trying to discern which mini is where. And honestly, the molds that hold the minis are not the best.
No.
This mini can fit into 6 different spots.
6 different spots, yeah.
So,
the last time we broke down the game, I kind of just put them everywhere. I don't know if you fixed it.
I didn't because it fit.
Yeah, I was just throwing them like, it'll fit here, okay, fit there. Like, you just got to find a place for them.
If you go to Lucky Duck, they do have an official map, and it'll show you where all the minis are supposed to go, but...
Oh, we could have just used that for the setup. That probably would have made it easier.
What?
The map of where they go.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Yeah. Well, I'm not going to fix them.
Hindsight is 2020.
Hindsight is 2020.
Right. Yeah. So, the aesthetic of the game.
I love the art.
I love the art.
If you can tell by like this cover alone,
it's very good.
It really does like have this sense. All the artwork has a sense of, obviously, you know, Middle Ages.
Right.
That's the whole aesthetic, the theme. Ages, yeah. But it has this sense of dread.
Yeah.
To some degree.
I don't know. Everything that you do in the game is in response to something bad happening in the world of Destinies. Mm-hmm. There's never something that's like, oh, the realm's having a great day, go out and be happy. It's always something bad that's happening.
It is something dark, something that it's a very reactionary game. Every game really is to a degree, but this one is, oh, what happened? Okay, now I'm going to do this.
Now we're doing this, yeah.
So the artwork, I feel, really matches that. It matches tonally, and I think the artwork is fantastic. When you have all the tiles laid out, they line up very well. They line
up very nice.
And they create a very nice image, and all of the character cards, though small, like the image itself, it's good.
It's very detailed.
And it almost looks sketchy.
Yeah.
And I really like that sketch
and
style.
I really like the item cards.
Yeah.
All really good art. Like sometimes I'll just look at the card, just like that's really, man. It's because it's just super detailed and like colorful most of the time. Like it just looks nice.
And I noticed all the item cards. The background is like a piece of parchment.
Yeah.
So it's good. The cards are simple to read.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of ambiguity when it comes to what does this card do.
Exactly. Like, you read the card and like, oh, okay.
Yeah. So
it's super simple.
I really do like the artwork. I never every time I see a new piece of art, I'm like, oh, that's cool.
I mean, even just looking over there at the rulebook, like, the art's awesome.
Yeah,
I mean, it's super cool.
And it looks like this big towering thing, and when you play that game, you do have this sense of we're fighting a bigger enemy every time. Yeah, and it was great.
Because you are. Fun. How fun is the game?
Oh man.
Whoa! What the?
I was worried.
Oh.
Anyway, fun.
Super fun.
Very fun.
Extra fun.
Double fun.
Extremely fun.
It is a very fun game. It's a game. We played 3 scenarios in one day, and I didn't want. Not once going to the next one or talking about the next one was I like, oh man,
bored of this.
I don't want to go to the next one. No. It was always, let's go.
Yeah.
I mean, little bathroom break. This and that.
Of course.
But then we continue.
Natural human things.
Yes. Yeah. We did always have to reset, which you don't have to fully reset it. You know, putting all the tiles back in order.
Right.
All the cards back in order.
It's nice to keep things like that in good order. It makes it easier in the long run.
Yeah, because the app will say, pull out item 7.
Right.
You know exactly where to go. You just sift through a little bit.
Because it's item 7.
Yeah. So, as far as fun, though, it really didn't disappoint. It was always...
No. And the scenarios just kept getting better as they went on.
Yes, even I will say the first one moved a lot faster, simply because...
And it's still one of my favorites, just because what was happening in the scenario.
Yeah, I agree. But even that, it had a nice story progression. Yeah. And then the other 4 had that same kind of nice progression upward.
Yes.
To a big
And they actually had even more progression. And like, the first one, not a lot happened in between the start and the end. Mm-hmm. But in later ones, things started happening as we did things started, the world kind of started changing along with it. And it was just like, we weren't expecting it in the very first one after the tutorial one. It's just like, whoa, like, this is happening. We're not doing anything. It's just happening. I'm assuming there's a trigger. And suddenly things start kind of spiraling.
It could either there's a trigger or there's an active
countdown.
Because
there's days in the game.
Yes.
And as the days go on, things happen. Could be that too.
Right. Because I think that is right. I think it maybe might be both.
Both. Because
I did notice after certain things,
stuff would happen.
It would happen. Yeah. That seemed like it directly. It could be coincidental, but it felt like it directly wasn't. Because
there was no pattern. It's not like at the beginning of each round, like after the third person goes and the first person starts, things happen. It's like this person did something, and then this started happening, and now every turn or so, it keeps doing something, which is fun. It's a fun mechanic.
And I even noticed sometimes it would, every time it got back to me, something would happen. I'd have to read a text. But then sometimes it would be me, or our other player. So it was never on this player's turn, X happens.
Right.
So
which is fun because it's unpredictable.
It is. It's unpredictable.
Seemingly unpredictable.
Yeah, I mean, it is scripted in some way, shape, or form, but it felt like, oh no, like. I don't want to say anything because that is spoiling.
Right.
So
you want to move on to the likes about the game?
Yeah.
I think my biggest one was like the ability, not the ability, but the options you had available each turn that you took, because there's so many different things that you could choose to do that you really had to think about it and think what's the best for this turn and what's the best as an overall kind of strategy. And the different kind of choices you can make to go down either the light side, the light destiny, the good destiny.
The good.
Or the dark side of the destiny.
The bad destiny.
The bad destiny. I think you said the selfish destiny.
Yeah, I would. The dark ones from the bad ones usually, and whoever did it, whoever completed it, it was very good for them.
Generally me.
Very good for that player, but for everybody else, it ended
just kind of like
poorly.
Something bad happened, or all the other characters disappear. I think that, and it's fun because you don't know exactly what happens to them, but it's not good. But whatever happens to you is better, which is nice, because if you win, you're like, okay, my character does this after this. It's like, okay.
Yeah, even when I would lose, even whatever, at the end when we're reading the outcome, every player was involved. Every character got involved in the end story, because at the end of the day, they are a part of the story. So nobody was left like you said, nobody just
uncertain of what happened to them.
It's very clear what happened, even if you failed, and I guess in some aspect there could be an amount of replayability, just to see the different outcomes.
Right.
I think though it would be fairly similar, just with small tweaks.
Right.
Just for those stories.
Maybe, especially the biggest thing would probably be if you went down the dark path here, go down the light path, and it'll probably be a little bit better overall for everybody.
Yeah.
Rather than just for you. But what would you say is one of your biggest likes?
My biggest likes, it was interacting with NPCs. Doing. It just felt so natural. Everybody really reacted well to the dark world that I had mentioned too. It was
very immersive.
It's very immersive. Yeah. It's very grim. But you go speak to somebody who's not having a good time, they're gonna tell you, "I'm not having a good time."
I'm not having a good time.
And they're gonna say there's some people who just flat out don't feel like talking, don't want to talk.
They don't want you to be near them.
They're scared. I really did like that. It was. You could have it felt like you were having actual conversations with people.
It did. It really did. I remember at one point, I think the third or fourth scenario, you were talking to someone, and after you're done talking to them, they got like pretty much like sent to a different location. And if you didn't remember that happened, then if you try and go back to them, you're gonna be like, well, where'd they go? Mm-hmm. But because that person gives you a quest pretty much, and to fulfill the quest, you have to go find them, because if you don't, who knows?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's very immersive, and the world kind of changes around with you, and that kind of like, you'll talk to this guy and then suddenly he'll go away, and then later on you'll see him somewhere else, because people, they're not like glued to that particular, especially the miniatures really. All the little icons on the tiles kind of are, but the miniatures can really like feel alive, because they'll move around and do other things.
Yes, they'll have they're NPCs they almost seem like they're just there for fun.
Yeah,
but they're not. None of these locations or anything is filler. It's all very. It all has a purpose to some degree. So, yeah, like somebody will say, "I'm going over there," and they'll actually move. Yeah. It says move that mini to that location, and if you go over there, you're gonna have different conversations with them.
Yeah.
So,
something I like is that even when you fail. So let's say you fail a test. You gotta, generally when you fail, you have to go to the right on your player board, which means it's gonna be harder for you to succeed in the future.
Yeah.
But you still get an XP, which lets you move those to the left, which makes it easier to succeed.
Yep.
So even when you're failing, you still get an opportunity to succeed, just at a later date.
Yeah. Which leads into one of my dislikes is the to a degree, it just makes me think of the dislike of it is dice, it is random, you have to deal with that.
You can be very unlucky.
You can be very unlucky. You can try doing something, you get one success, you don't do it. You continually get one success, you do not complete it.
You don't complete it.
And then finally, if you're stubborn, like
me,
he played very stubbornly, and he would fixate on one thing, and
especially in like 2 or 3 scenarios, or like right out the gate, I'm like, oh, I found something that's definitely cool. I just have to spend 4 turns to get it.
Yeah. So all those ones, and then you get 2 and you succeed.
Yeah.
It's maybe I'm bad at the game.
Maybe I'm just unlucky.
But then that leads to the effort die.
Yes.
Which the effort die is a very interesting mechanic where you have 3 extra dice that are always on, I'd say, reserve, but every turn you bring one back and you can use it. So if you save those up, you're able to roll pretty much a maximum of 5 dice for a test.
It's pretty hard to fail with 5 dice.
Yeah, so I did that and I succeeded. So it was just, I needed to play a little smarter. I needed to not be so either stingy with how many dice I wanted to roll.
Right.
Because sometimes you have to throw them all. And
even if you don't want to,
which then it just leads to those decisions you need to make.
Yeah.
There is the strategy,
because once you roll all 3 of your effort die, you have to wait 3 more turns to get them all back, and that's if you don't use any within those 3 turns, which it makes it harder to pass tests, because you're only rolling the 2 main die.
Right.
So it is very much. It's like a simple strategy, like you gotta think kind of like in simple terms, like, do I want to use all my dice now? Do I want to save them?
Yeah.
Because generally it's smart to save them, because there can be big tests where you need like 4 successes. That's going to be tough. Mm-hmm. That's going to be tough with 2, near impossible with 2 dice.
Unless you've done very good with or very bad, and you built up a lot of XP.
Right.
Yeah.
Any more likes?
I mean, there's a lot of likes to it. But that's really what stuck out is, again, the writing, the way the stories flow together, and all that stuff. Yeah.
So on to dislikes. I think we've already talked about them all.
That was my biggest one as well.
So since we've already talked about them, they kind of came up naturally throughout the video. We're just kind of gonna move on right into like an overall rating. I give it a 9 because it's not perfect, but it's very, very close. Mm-hmm. And the biggest thing why it's not a 10 for me is the downtime between the app, which maybe is kind of unfair because it's an app-based game. It's not simultaneous turns.
Right.
But that's just how it is.
I mean, yeah. For me, also a 9. I love the gameplay, and if you let yourself get lost in it, like, truly get lost in it, and read everything out loud, and you don't have to role play it. No,
right.
But if you like, oh, I'm this character in this time, and really let yourself think hard about what's going on. And of course, the sound effects that the app does is there's always music playing.
Yeah.
For example, if there's a horse or they're talking about a horse, you'll hear galloping, you'll hear neighing.
Yes. I know some games sell like original soundtracks. I've never thought about getting any, but I mean that might really set the mood for it.
Yeah, I was playing Betrayal in the House on the Hill, and I was playing like spooky music, and it's an element that I've never really thought about, is putting music into games.
But if you think about something like a movie with no background music,
it's very dull.
You'd be super bored, and you'd feel like something is missing. Which maybe it could be, it doesn't have to be loud, doesn't have to be,
I think you should, especially if you're doing it with board game, also with music, with a movie or something, if you forget that it's there,
right?
But it's still in your mind.
Play it in legitimately like straight up background music.
Yeah. It just lets you get into it.
I feel like
in the vibe.
It helps you immerse yourself into the game.
Yes.
Like maybe Terraforming Mars with just some like howling wind. Exactly.
Yeah.
Something like that. I don't know. Maybe there's something on YouTube.
I guarantee there is. Yep.
Overall rating 9.
It's a 9.
Yeah, it's great.
Solid.
Game. Yeah, exactly.
Lucky Duck. This is the second game I've played from them. Another one I absolutely love. It's not leaving my collection. You need to play Chronicles.
I've only played this one. I've never played Chronicles of Crime. I'm planning on getting their new upcoming game. I think it's Divinus or something. Well, I called dibs before him.
But I do the Lucky Duck though.
Yeah, but I called dibs, so I'm gonna buy it because it looks fun. And I saw it first. So.
It saves me money, so whatever.
Yeah, but now I'm gonna have the Lucky Duck game. Yeah. You can always buy it too.
Yeah, I could, but I wouldn't mind just supporting Lucky Duck. I really like what they do. An issue people have with Chronicles was the translation, but I think here.
Oh, it was fine for me,
it was fantastic.
Yeah.
I know they did they did get local translation and stuff like that.
I didn't see anything that was like stood out as that's awkward to read or awkward to say,
So it is it makes me feel good to buy from these developers again because they're obviously listening.
Yes.
That was a big gripe people had, and they went, okay, we're going to fix that.
That's how I feel like Dragori games. They seem very customer focused. And Lazy Squire games too. They will address a lot of your concerns. A lot of the smaller game companies. People like Simon or like Stonemaier Games, like they're kind of they're big enough that if you don't want to buy their games, that's your loss.
But it is good. I wouldn't even say refreshing because a lot of developers actually are very cool and listen to their people, and so I think Lucky Duck did it again.
I think Destinies was a great game. I can't really talk on their other games, but this right here, I wouldn't mind buying it, but the lack of like replayability kind of like puts a damper on that. But I will play any more Destinies that you happen to get.
I will be buying all of the expansions.
So,
yeah. This has been Boarded Home.
Boarded Home.
This was Destinies.
Go out and fulfill your destiny.